Our story begins with a young man who awakened the nation's only S-rank profession, only to be pinned down on the altar by his own parents to have his bloodline drained. They forcibly fused his power into his manipulative brother, Qingdi, while the entire school mocked him, calling him lower than a dog. Even the cold campus belle, who promised to team up with him, turned overnight to worship Qingdi. In this world of job classes, losing one's bloodline is a death sentence. He was forced into the lowest Earth-grade warlock class, while Qingdi thrived by stealing his S-rank Taishan Zhongqi bloodline. The power of Taishan was gone, or so they thought, but as it turns out, Zhongqi was just the beginning. He didn't care for their scraps. Instead, he awakened the world's only SSR rank ultimate divine class, the Holy Lord, capable of controlling 8 ancient demons. With this terrifying power, he could craft Emperor-level artifacts with a simple touch. Now, we find ourselves in a lethal monster forbidden zone. We see a level 35 giant slime boss relentlessly trampling the so-called genius, Qingdi, who can do nothing but flee in terror. Our protagonist stands by with one hand in his pocket, the other glowing with the light of 12 talismans, as he calmly snaps his fingers. Deep down, he mocks them, knowing they truly don't understand the meaning of having everything. We return to the awakening platform at Jiangnan High School. A second ago, a brilliant golden light pierced the stadium roof, signaling the awakening of the S-rank hidden profession, Taishan Zhongqi. The cheers of the teachers and students were still building in their throats, not yet having the chance to fully erupt into the air. Suddenly, a terrifying earth element pressure slammed into Chun Ming's back, without warning or mercy. The impact was devastating. Chun Ming's knees crashed into the hard bluestone floor, the force churning his internal organs and forcing a mouthful of blood from his lips. The blood dripped onto the cold, awakening stone as he struggled to lift his head, his vision blurred by the shimmering golden light. He stared at the man who had struck him down, his own father, Qin Yu, the head of one of Jiangnan's 5 great families. "Dad, what are you doing?" Chun Ming hissed through clenched teeth, his gums bleeding from the sheer intensity of his grip. Every word felt like it was being squeezed from his very soul. As a transmigrator, he had found no warmth in this family. He was a peerless genius that any power would treat like a god, yet he was met not with a father's pride, but with betrayal. Instead of pride, he was met with this merciless, lethal suppression. A voice filled with feigned distress and tears suddenly called out, begging him not to blame their father. The voice belonged to Chun Ming's younger brother, Qin Yu, who stood below the stage with reddened eyes, cradled like a precious treasure by their mother, Zhang Yi. In his pale hand, Qin Yu clutched 2 top-tier pills radiating a dense medicinal fragrance. To be honest, these were no ordinary trinkets. They were the talent-granting golden pills, obtained only after the Chun family spent a fortune and exhausted the grandfather's entire network of connections. Qin Yu sobbed, claiming he only wanted to see the S-rank metal-type profession up close, insisting he never intended to steal his brother's destiny. He lamented that Qin Ming already disliked him and would surely hate him more now. A single tear rolled down his cheek at the perfect moment, very dramatic, indeed. That pitiful display instantly pierced the hearts of Chun Yu and Zhang Yi, but as Chun Ming lowered his head, he saw something else entirely. He captured the fleeting, cold smirk hidden beneath his brother's mask of innocence. It was a look of pure, calculated triumph. His mother, Zhang Yi, spoke with a chillingly indifferent tone, reminding him that his brother had always been frail and that this S-rank class suited the pills perfectly. She asked why he couldn't just give it up as an older brother. After all, they were family, and in her mind, it didn't matter who held the power. Give it up? The fury boiling in Chun Ming's chest nearly incinerated his sanity. In this world where monsters roam and dungeons manifest, a profession is life itself. Without a class, he would be nothing more than a stray dog, unable to even leave the city gates, struggling to survive at the very bottom of society. He asked if he hadn't given enough over the years. Family resources, cultivation pills, even his rightful place as the eldest son. And now, they wanted to take the very life force that would allow him to survive. His eyes turned blood red, like a lone wolf backed into a corner. He stared at his high and mighty parents, but his father, Qin Yu, simply barked at him to shut up. The pressure on his back intensified. The earth element magic surged violently, twisting the very air around them. His father explained that Chun Yu was set to marry into the elite Su family. The Su family demanded absolute potential and strength. With this S-rank profession, Chun Yu could secure his footing within their powerful ranks. This alliance would allow the Chun family to leap forward and become the #1 clan in Jiangnan City. It was a simple matter of business, really. He told his son that his profession, his body, and his very life were gifts from the family. Sacrificing himself for their future was merely his duty. It was a twisted, illogical favoritism, a blatant exchange of interests where the eldest son was viewed as nothing more than a disposable tool. To them, he was just a piece of meat to be sliced up and boiled into a medicinal soup for the younger son. But he wouldn't let them. This was his profession, and without his consent, no one would dare touch it. Chun Ming fought with every ounce of strength to break free from that suffocating suppression, his trembling fingers inching toward the golden light. The light hovered above the awakening stone, and even as his fingernails cracked and his bones groaned under the unbearable weight, he refused to stop. His father, Chunyu, saw this defiance, and a flash of cruel ruthlessness crossed his eyes. As a level 40 powerhouse, he decided to end this rebellion once and for all. He unleashed his terrifying pressure without reservation, slamming it down like a falling mountain. A sickening, bone-chilling crack echoed through the deathly silent gymnasium. Chun Ming's right arm was snapped by the sheer force, twisted into a grotesque and unnatural angle. The agony was sharp and visceral, like being flayed alive. His vision went dark for a moment as cold sweat soaked through his thin shirt. In those few seconds where he lost the ability to resist, the scene took a turn. Chinyu stepped onto the awakening stage with total indifference. Meanwhile, Chinyu swallowed the top-tier pills and walked past his brother's broken body. Those eyes, which had been brimming with tears moments ago, were now filled with unconcealed mockery and the arrogance of a victor. To be honest, the mask had slipped completely. He reached out his uninjured hand and pressed it eagerly against the awakening stone. And then, we witness a moment of truly suffocating despair. The S-rank light, catalyzed by the pills and forcibly stripped away by Chun Yu's earth magic, didn't reject the younger brother at all. Instead, like a shark catching the scent of blood, the light surged forward, joyfully and frantically pouring into Chun Yu's body through his arm. The golden glow was blinding. Chun Ming watched as the light that once belonged to him completely abandoned him, merging into his brother's form. Strangely enough, the madness and fury in Chun Ming's eyes began to recede. In its place grew a chilling, heart-stopping stillness that was far more terrifying. Blood ties and family bonds. In the face of such nauseating favoritism and cold self-interest, those concepts felt like a cruel, cosmic joke. This world, as it turns out, is a place where the strong devour the weak, and even the supposed warmth of family has rotted into something foul. Just as he closed his eyes, preparing to sink into the abyss of a broken fate, a sharp ding echoed in his mind. Yes, right at the final moment. A mechanical voice announced, "Congratulations, host, on changing classes to the unique SSS rank hidden profession, Sovereign." It was a sound that tore through the night. The voice sliced through the darkness before Chun Ming's eyes. His pupils contracted sharply, and a cold, defiant curve began to pull at the corners of his lips. An SSS rank profession, something that stands far above all conventional knowledge, a power that even in the legends of this world is whispered of with awe. This was a god-level profession unheard of in the history of the nation. It seemed fate hadn't completely abandoned him. Pushing him into hell was merely a way to ensure he returned to the world of the living as a Shura. At that moment, the teachers and students below the stage finally snapped out of their shock from this staggering turn of events. The entire gymnasium erupted into absolute chaos, the roar of the crowd nearly lifting the roof off. We hear the whispers of disbelief, a younger brother forcibly stealing his elder's S-rank profession. The Chun family's cruelty was truly breathtaking. People whispered for others to be quiet, noting how the head of the family had personally stepped in to suppress his own son. To the onlookers, Chun Ming was finished, his bones were shattered, his profession gone. In this world, he was now worth even less than the most ordinary laborer. He listened as the murmurs washed over him like a tide, feeling the weight of gazes filled with pity, mockery, and a twisted sense of schadenfreude. Chunyu let out a disdainful snort. He looked down at Chun Ming, who was collapsed on the ground in a pathetic state, as if he were looking at a bag of useless trash. He told the boy not to blame him, for the interests of the family stood above all else. Since he was now professionless, he should simply stay in the back courtyard. He offered him the life of an ordinary mortal. As long as he was obedient, the Chin family wouldn't mind feeding him and ensuring he had clothes on his back. Chun Ming let out a low, hollow laugh, a sound filled with a chilling desolation that would make anyone's skin crawl. To be honest, the irony was almost too much to bear. Enduring the searing, tearing agony from his broken arm, he stood up. He was shaky, yet he rose with a determination that was utterly unshakable. He didn't spare a single glance for Chun Yu, who was currently basking in the radiant golden light and the glory of his stolen future. Nor did he look at his parents. They stood there with an air of superiority, as if they were merely tossing scraps to a beggar. With his good left hand, Chun Ming casually wiped the blood from his lips. His dark eyes were like a pool of stagnant water, devoid of any lingering longing for family. He realized that the moment his father broke his arm for Chun Yu's sake, he was no longer a member of the Chin family. His voice wasn't loud, yet it possessed a soul-piercing power that echoed clearly through the deathly silent gymnasium. He warned Chun Yu to remember this day and never to regret it. From this moment forward, Chun Ming was severing all ties with the Chun family of Jiangnan. He declared they would never meet again in this life. His father, Chun Yu, flew into a towering rage, unable to believe the nonsense he was hearing. Trembling with fury, he pointed at Chun Ming's nose and cursed him, claiming that without the family's protection, a crippled waste like him wouldn't survive 3 days. Chun Ming didn't even blink, completely ignoring the man's frantic shouting. Instead, he turned toward the principal of No. 6 High School, Chui Guoming, who was rushing onto the stage. Principal Chui's face was a mask of regret and heartache. Despite everything, Chun Ming kept his back perfectly straight, like a spear that would rather break than bend. Like a bloodstained spear that refused to bend, he stood tall and asked Principal Chui Guoming for permission to complete his final basic class awakening. Chui Guoming let out a heavy sigh, his eyes filled with pity and regret. In the standard backup options, only the lowest Earth-grade warlock remained. He warned that such a class could barely offer self-protection, yet Chen Ming didn't hesitate for a second, firmly insisting on the transition. An Earth-grade warlock? Not quite. That was merely a perfect disguise to deceive the world, accompanied by a faint, almost negligible pale light. As the dim glow flickered, Chen Ming completed what appeared to be a standard, unremarkable class awakening. While the crowd watched with pity or treated him like a common clown, no one knew what a world-shaking transformation was occurring deep within his soul. 8 demonic phantoms, radiating an ancient and desolate power capable of destroying heaven and earth, began to manifest in the depths of his consciousness. Like 8 insurmountable god kings, they respectfully bowed their arrogant heads toward his soul. We see the weight of mountains and the sharpness of wind. The fury of fire and 8 extreme elemental powers began frantically reshaping his limbs and meridians. And this is where the true transition began. The Holy Lord awakening was complete. The fire demon, sensing its host's deep-seated rage, felt a twisted satisfaction and proactively granted him an S rank. Skill. To be honest, the demon seemed more than happy to fuel his vengeance. He strode out of the gymnasium doors as the dazzling sunlight broke through the clouds, spilling over his thin but unyielding silhouette. He thought of Chunyu, Su Jia, and the rest of the Qin family. They truly believed that stealing a mere S-rank profession made them the final winners. They were wrong. They had personally unleashed an eternal demon, and his hunting season had only just begun. As Chun Ming walked down the campus path, his broken right arm hanging limply, the searing pain began to shift into a tingling sensation of healing. Under the subtle baptism of the Holy Lord class, his consciousness became fully immersed in the dark, profound system interface within his mind. The display was clear. Host Qin Ming, class Holy Lord, rank SSR. His spirit stood at 45 and constitution at 30. He possessed the power of demons, with the fire demon unlock in progress. His skills included the S-rank flame burst and the passive demon's hand. Demon points stood at 0, obtainable through kills or completing demonic contracts. Chen Ming was inwardly shaken. These initial attributes were simply absurd. A normal person's total attributes usually hover around 30 after awakening, yet his spirit alone had already reached 45, which tells you everything you need to know. His total attributes had surpassed 100. This wasn't just some Earth-grade warlock. This was a young demon god, Chen Ming, wearing a human skin. Stop right there. An angry, urgent shout echoed from behind him. Chun Ming paused for a moment, turning his head just enough to see a familiar figure. In his peripheral vision, we see his homeroom teacher, Lin Zhong, rushing toward him. Lin had always looked after the top student, Chun Ming, in the past. Now, the old teacher's face was flushed red, his eyes filled with a mixture of heartbreak and anxiety. Chun Ming, you've been so foolish. He couldn't believe the boy would throw everything away like this. Your arm is ruined. Listen to me. Go back and apologize. Your father is angry, but he wouldn't truly watch you become a cripple. Chun Ming looked at him. Seeing the teacher was truly worried for him, the icy chill in Chun Ming's eyes softened slightly, yet his resolve remained firm. Teacher Lin, the Chun family, demands a price paid in bone. This arm is my payment for their years of raising me. From now on, I live only for myself. Child, why are you so stubborn? Lin Zhong wanted to argue further, but he was suddenly struck by a strange, majestic aura radiating from Chun Ming. The pressure was so intense that the rest of his words were caught in his throat, leaving him speechless. Without staying a moment longer, Chun Ming walked straight toward the school gates. Meanwhile, back at the Chun family's awakening platform, Chun Yu was testing his power. He felt the surging strength of the Taishan heavy armor, a metallic defensive power as thick as the earth itself. Chen Yong and Zhang Yi were beaming with pride. They surrounded their younger son with warmth and concern. Xiao Yu, how do you feel? Now that you have an S-rank class, the Su family's daughter has a birthday next week. You can show off in public, and that marriage alliance will be set in stone. Zhang Yi looked relieved, while Chen Yu nodded obediently, though his eyes flashed with malice. Dad, brother left with such determination. What if he actually goes to the Song or Su families and tells them we stole his profession? Chen Yong let out a cold snort, his gaze turning sinister. He's a one-armed, Earth-grade warlock who would offend our Chen family for the sake of a nobody. If he wants to rot, let him, but just in case, I'll have someone watch him. If he dares to speak a single word, he shouldn't. The Qin family doesn't support useless trash or ungrateful wolves. We move now to the Jiangnan City Dungeon Hall, a place bustling with activity year-round. Countless adventurers gather here to form teams, trade, and accept bounties. Chun Ming's twisted arm and pale face made him stand out painfully in the crowd. Wait, isn't that the genius student from high school number 6? I heard he awakened in S-rank class. Brother, you must be joking. That can't be him. The whispers in the crowd grew louder, questioning if this was truly the genius from high school number 6. They had heard he awakened in S-rank class, but the news was already outdated. His father had personally stripped that S-rank class away to give it to his brother. Now he was just a one-armed Earth-grade warlock. It was a pathetic sight, really. People wondered why a cripple like him would even come to the dungeon hall. Was he looking for a death wish? The mockery surged like a tide, but Chun Ming ignored it all. He walked with a singular focus toward the mission counter, his expression unreadable. He handed his exam permit to the staff member behind the desk and stated calmly that he wanted to enter the grotto dungeon. The staff member froze, looking at him with genuine pity. The worker warned him that although it was a level 1 dungeon, the environment was oppressive and the monsters were dense. Even S-rank professionals hesitated to go in alone. Looking at his current state, the worker doubted he would survive, but Chun Ming didn't feel like wasting words. He simply told them to process his card and moved toward the teleportation array. Just as he was about to step into the shimmering light of the portal, the system's notification chimed in his mind once again. It detected that the host was entering a dungeon. A new prompt appeared, triggering the fire of the evil demon questline. The system demanded he clear the dungeon within 10 minutes to receive a specialized reward. A cruel arc formed on Chun Ming's lips as he thought 10 minutes was far too long. With a flash of white light, his figure vanished from the hall. Not long after he departed, 2 men dressed in black with the Azure King emblem embroidered on their chests quietly appeared in the hall. They were clearly following him. They exchanged a glance and shared a playful, mocking smile. Their young master had guessed correctly. The useless trash really intended to use the dungeon to find a way out. They planned to follow him inside, find a secluded corner, and grant him a final, permanent release. Inside the dungeon, the air in the dark, damp cave was thick with a foul stench. Chun Ming stood at the entrance, slightly raising his left hand. In the center of his palm, a ball of dark red flame instantly surged into existence. The flame looked weak, yet it radiated a suffocating heat. To be honest, the temperature was so extreme that the surrounding rocks began to glow and melt instantly. He wondered if this was the true power of the S-rank skill. Flame burst. Suddenly, from the darkness, over a dozen large, green-skinned goblins charged out with a screech. Their rusty longswords flickered with a cold, menacing light. Chun Ming didn't even blink. He simply gave his left hand a gentle wave toward the oncoming horde. A massive explosion rocked the cavern, turning the darkness into a blinding inferno of heat and sound. The notifications flooded in. Level 5 Goblin killed, 12 experience points. Level 7 Goblin Warrior killed, 25 experience points. All of them gone in a single strike. Every goblin within a 10-meter radius was vaporized into black ash before they could even let out a scream. Chun Ming didn't stop, stepping over the scalding magma with cold eyes fixed on the depths of the cave. These monsters would be his first sacrifice. Deep within the grotto, the air grew so heavy it was nearly suffocating, and the echoes of dying shrieks bounced off the narrow tunnel walls. We see Chun Ming walking expressionless among the charred remains, his left hand waving casually as every streak of fire found its mark. Each blast precisely claimed another goblin's life. To be honest, this wasn't even a battle anymore. It was a one-sided massacre. While a normal warlock needs time to chant and predict enemy movement, our protagonist operates on a different level. Under the blessing of his SS rank class, his spells were instantaneous and self-locking. The power of the evil demon was simply overwhelming. The goblin's tough leather armor was as fragile as waste paper before those dark red flames. Then, the familiar chime of a level up rang out. He reached level 3, gaining 5 points to all stats and 10 free attribute points. Without a moment's hesitation, he poured them all into one category. He chose Spirit, for a warlock spirit is the ultimate ceiling of their firepower. As the attributes surged, his physical state began to shift. The paleness from his severed arm was replaced by a healthy glow, his mana surging like a raging tide. Suddenly, the cave began to tremble. A heavy vibration echoed through the depths as a 3-meter-tall monstrosity covered in pustules emerged. It was a goblin centurion. This level 10 elite blocked Chun Ming's path, clutching a massive spiked mace with eyes full of bloodthirsty rage. The centurion let out a deafening roar, and the remaining goblins found their courage, lunging frantically toward Chun Ming once more. He merely scoffed, noting that ants are still ants no matter how many there are. He clenched his left hand as the fireball turned bright orange. He unleashed the flame burst meteor. The moment it left his hand, it split into dozens of tiny streaks of fire in midair. They rained down like a meteor shower, covering the entire area. This was Chun Ming's own micromanipulation of an S-rank skill. He realized that instead of wasting mana on a single overkill strike, it was far more efficient to create a grid of certain death. The fire rained down with terrifying precision. The goblins charging in the front were instantly caught in the inferno. The flames pierced through them, leaving nothing behind but the smell of scorched earth and the silence of the void. The power of the fire demon, which had been building for some time, erupted in an instant. The centurion's massive body was struck like a sandbag hit by a heavy hammer. He was sent flying backward, crashing violently against the rock wall with a charred hole the size of a bowl blasted into his chest. The level 10 centurion was dead. He gained 500 experience points, and with a crisp chime, his level rose to level 5. At the same time, we see the system countdown stop. It rested at 3 minutes and 15 seconds. He had achieved the extreme challenge condition for the Fire Demon quest, which required clearing the dungeon within 10 minutes. With the task complete in record time, the rewards were issued. The Wind Demon's skill, Ghostly Wind Walk, was unlocked at 5% progress. A cool, pale green energy instantly washed over Chun Ming's head. He felt his body lose all its weight, as if gravity no longer applied to him. With just a single thought, he could turn into a gust of wild wind. Suddenly, Chun Ming turned his head, shouting for whoever was hiding to come out. His sharp gaze pierced the shadows at the entrance. 2 members of the Green Wolf assassination team had been planning to strike during the chaos. By now, they were pale with terror. To be honest, the short blades they held so tightly were trembling uncontrollably in their hands. Since they had come, he decided they should stay to keep the goblins company. Chun Ming kicked off the ground, activating Ghostly Wind Walk instantly. He covered the 10-meter distance as if he were teleporting. In half a breath, he was behind an assassin, his fire cloud palms swallowing the man's screams. Seeing this, the other man let out a desperate roar and swung his sword at Chun Ming. Our protagonist merely tilted his body slightly to the side. He avoided the blade with an arc that seemed to defy the laws of physics. His left hand, shaped like a blade, sliced precisely across the man's throat. The 2 corpses hit the ground with a thud. Chun Ming coldly searched their storage spaces, finding several tokens engraved with the name Chun. He also found a simple map marking his exact route. It seemed Chun Yong couldn't even wait a little while. Chun Ming crushed the tokens, his eyes turning bone-chillingly cold. If his enemy was in such a hurry to send the Chun family to their graves, he would simply speed up the process. He picked up the silver chest, dropped by the boss. Without a hint of nostalgia, he stepped into the teleportation array. Outside the dungeon, the once noisy hall was now as silent as a grave. Everyone, including the staff member who had mocked Chun Ming earlier, stared with wide mouths at the large screen displaying a golden announcement. It congratulated an anonymous player for refreshing the record of the Level 1 dungeon with a staggering time of 3 minutes and 15 seconds. The previous record was legendary, but just running through this map usually takes 5 minutes. People wondered if he had flown in to kill the boss. People began to whisper, wondering if this anonymous player could actually be Chun Ming, the young man with the broken arm. Just then, the teleportation array flashed with a brilliant light. Chun Ming's tall, upright figure appeared at the exit. He was still wearing that same tattered school uniform, looking remarkably composed despite the chaos he had just caused. His severed right arm was simply bound with strips of cloth he had torn from his clothes. He walked through the stunned crowd with an air of complete indifference. Suddenly, a middle-aged man in a sharp suit stepped forward to intercept him. On his chest, he wore the unmistakable crest of the powerful Song family conglomerate. The man introduced himself as the Song family butler, explaining that the eldest Miss, Song Qingqing, wished to invite him for a talk. He suggested the Qin family no longer deserved his talent. Chun Ming stopped, a playful smile tugging at the corner of his mouth. He told Song Qingqing's man to lead the way, knowing the real game in Jiangnan City was only just beginning. We moved to the Tianyuan Cloud Top restaurant in the heart of the city. The entire floor had been cleared out, leaving only the quiet hum of luxury and a panoramic view. Through the massive floor-to-ceiling windows, the city was draped in mist. Chun Ming sat on a leather sofa, looking, to be honest, quite out of place in such an opulent setting. Though his arm was still wrapped in cloth, the swelling had subsided thanks to the fire demon's energy. He showed not a single trace of the despair one might expect. Sitting across from him was a young woman with a cold, elegant aura. She wore a form-fitting black combat suit, her long hair pulled back into a sharp, high ponytail. This was Song Qingqing, the leader of the Song family's younger generation and a highly skilled shadow duelist. Her eyes held a certain piercing intensity. 3 minutes and 15 seconds. She repeated the time while her long fingers tapped rhythmically on the table, where a freshly printed battle report lay between them. The report confirmed the Goblin Centurion had been killed in a single strike. She noted that, according to public records, he was supposed to be a talentless cripple. She reminded him that he was officially just an Earth-grade warlock who had been stripped of his S-rank talent by the Qin family. Chun Ming, however, seemed unbothered. He casually picked up a piece of spirit fruit from the table and took a bite. He calmly asked if she had invited him here just to reminisce about his tragic past. Song Qingqing leaned forward, her gaze as sharp as an arrow. She remarked that while the Chun couple might be blind, she certainly was not. She was certain that for an Earth-grade user to achieve such a record, he must possess something far more terrifying than the Taishan Heavy Banner. She had a proposal. She invited him to join the Song family, promising that whatever the Qins owed him, the Songs would help him take back. Chun Ming let out a soft, amused chuckle. He set the fruit down and asked exactly how she planned to settle that debt. Did she mean for him to kill Qin Yong? She went further, offering to secure his admission into the country's highest academy. It was a massive bait, provided he agreed to represent the Song family in the upcoming trials. She explained they needed the secret realm slot from the upcoming Academy Championship. It was a fair offer, but Chen Ming simply looked up with a playful glint in his eyes. He refused without a second thought. Song Qingqing's expression chilled instantly as she warned him that Chen Yong had already dispatched the Green Wolf squad to hunt him down. She mocked him, saying that killing a few weaklings in a dungeon didn't mean he was safe. Without a conglomerate's backing, he wouldn't even have money for basic medicine. Chen Ming stood up, stating he had no intention of becoming a servant to the Song family. Suddenly, a long-suppressed demonic aura began to leak from his frame. Song Qingqing's heart skipped a beat. It felt as though she weren't sitting across from a teenager, but rather an ancient, predatory entity ready to devour everything in its path. He suggested a partnership instead, extending his left hand. He would secure the slot for her, provided she supplied the intelligence, the entry tickets, and let him keep the rewards. His presence was overwhelming. He demanded that the Song family also collect every ancient artifact they could find that carried a trace of demonic energy. Song Qingqing almost laughed at the absurdity of a partnership, but looking into his bottomless eyes, she found she couldn't bring herself to say no. She could sense that Chen Ming was undergoing a fundamental transformation, one that might just be enough to overturn the entire power structure of Jiangnan City. As if possessed, she reached out and shook his hand, sealing the deal. She then shared her first piece of intel. The Chen family had reserved the Moon Shadow Garden dungeon. They wanted to build momentum for Chunyu, pushing him to level 10 so he could forcibly merge with Chun Ming's stolen S-rank professional source. A cruel, cold smile touched Chun Ming's lips. The Moon Shadow Garden, he mused, would indeed be a perfect place for a burial. Half an hour later, as he left the restaurant, his system interface flickered to life. A new demonic quest had been triggered, the Moon Demon's sudden wrath. The background revealed that the Moon Shadow Garden was once an altar for the Moon Demon, now overrun by D-rank monsters. His mission was clear. He was to enter the garden, sacrifice 100 Moon Shadow creatures, and eliminate the thief who had infiltrated the grounds, Chunyu himself. The reward would be the Moon Demon's power, gravity control. Chen Ming laughed coldly at the term thief. He didn't head straight for the dungeon, however. Instead, using a generous deposit from Song Qingqing, he ducked into a black market apothecary. He demanded 10 doses of wasted blood powder from the shopkeeper. The owner was horrified, warning him that the powder forces one's potential at the cost of their lifespan. To be honest, the man looked like he'd seen a ghost. Chen Ming ignored the chatter and tossed a stack of gold coins onto the counter. To anyone else, the powder was poison, but for him, it was a shortcut. It was the only way to forcibly expand his mana limit and fully trigger the power of the fire demon. And so, our protagonist prepared for the hunt. The path of the demon had truly begun. The system detected the host's iron will, and as the demon points were successfully converted, we see Chun Ming's level surge all the way to level 8. He unlocked the fire demon's passive ability, ensuring that any fire damage he deals will now carry an inextinguishable burning effect. Chun Ming slowly opened his eyes and clenched his left hand, where pale green winds and dark red flames intertwined to form a terrifying force. He mused that while Chunyu could steal his things, he certainly couldn't stomach them. Meanwhile, we turn to the Chun family villa. Young Chunyu was soaking in a tub of expensive holy medicine, his body glowing with golden light as his power approached level 10. With a look of pure fanaticism, Chunyu marveled at the strength of an S-rank profession. Chen Yong simply patted his son's shoulder with pride. He told him this was only the beginning, and that tomorrow at the Moon Shadow Garden, Su Shuer would help him become the city's brightest genius. As for the trash who left home, they assumed he was already dead in some foul sewer. Zhang Yi peeled a spiritual fruit, looking utterly relaxed. To be honest, they had no idea just how wrong they were. At the dungeon entrance, private soldiers from the Chun and Su families had already cordoned off the area, blocking all ordinary players. A path covered in red carpet had been cleared for Chun Yu, who arrived wearing a suit of shimmering, fluorescent heavy armor. Accompanied by Chun Yong and Zhang Yi, he was chatting happily with a young woman whose pretty face carried a hint of natural arrogance. This was the eldest daughter of the Su family, Su Shuer. She noted that after merging the S-rank profession, his strength had surely surpassed 100. Her eyes sparkled with a touch of admiration. Chen Yu gave a humble smile, though deep down, he was drowning in his own vanity. He credited his parents' cultivation, claiming the Taishan Zhongqi power was finally being used properly, unlike when it was with his brother. Zhang Yi snorted, telling them not to mention that unlucky brat. She reminded them that with Miss Su's help, they had to secure the first kill. They wanted the Moon Shadow Wolf King's head to bring glory to both families. But just as they prepared to enter, a figure appeared. A silhouette radiating a piercing chill slowly emerged from the distant shadows of the trees, carrying a remarkably ordinary longsword. His right hand was wrapped in thick bandages, while his left stayed in his pocket. He looked destitute, yet with every step, the crowd fell silent. Even the sound of the wind seemed to fall silent as Chun Ming appeared. Chen Yu's smile froze on his face, quickly turning into a look of thick, mocking derision. He couldn't believe the trash hadn't died and actually dared to show up here. Chen Yong stepped forward, unleashing the overwhelming pressure of a level 40 warrior upon Chen Ming. He barked at the boy, demanding to know who gave him permission to come here. Yet, Chun Ming stood perfectly still amidst that crushing pressure, his eyes deep and dark. He stared directly at Chun Yong, calmly noting that the Moon Shadow Plane is a public dungeon, not the Chun family's private backyard. It was a bold statement for a cripple. Su Shweder sized Chun Ming up with pure disdain, mocking his broken hand. She reminded him that Chun Yu was now an S-rank powerhouse destined for the highest academy. To her, a mere Earth-rank warlock like Chun Ming was an ant not even fit to carry Chun Yu's shoes. It was a harsh assessment, even for someone of her status. Chun Ming expressionlessly interrupted her ridicule, asking if she was finished. He then pulled a purple gold medallion engraved with the word Song from his pocket. The faces of Chun Yong and the guards changed instantly at the sight of the Song family's purple gold sword token, which represents the supreme authority of their patriarch. Chun Yong hissed in disbelief, wondering why Song Qingqing would give him such a thing. Chun Ming simply asked if he was now qualified to enter. He walked past the stunned crowd, but as he brushed past Chun Yong, he stopped and lowered his voice. He told him to enjoy these last moments of glory. It was a chilling promise regarding his future. Meanwhile, Chun Yong whispered to Chun Yu to have his men finish the job inside and make it look like a monster attack. We move inside the Moon Shadow Plane, where a blood-red moon hangs high in the sky and the howling of wolves echoes through the tall grass. Upon entering the dungeon, Chun Ming ignored the surrounding packs and ran straight toward the ruins of the ancient altar at the center of the plane. The system chimed, detecting the lunar aura and triggering the quest to unlock the Moon Demon's ability. He needed to collect 100 Moonwolf shards. To light the ancient altar, he would have to hunt. Using his ghostly wind walk, Chun Ming's silhouette transformed into a blur of pale green mist. He lunged out from the shadows like a predator. To be honest, he didn't even need his high-level skills for these creatures. With a simple sweep of his left hand, he unleashed the Fire Cloud Palm. Dark red flames lashed out like a burning whip, striking the surrounding wolf pack. The notifications began to flood in as he gained experience and his first shards. He was moving with a terrifying, calculated efficiency. In just 10 minutes, Chun Ming had left a trail of charred wolf carcasses in his wake. His leveling speed was, quite frankly, absurd. His experience bar jumped frantically until the system signaled another level increase. We see that his current level has already reached a new peak. He had reached level 9. At the same time, the elite team led by Chun Yu and Su Shweder entered the plains, heavily armed and supported by family experts. They were advancing rapidly, but Su Shweder soon paused, pointing at the side of the road. She asked Chun Yu why the monsters there looked like they had been charred by fire. Looking at the scorched wolf carcasses, she wondered if another high-level warlock was clearing the area. Chun Yu frowned as a wave of unease washed over him. He couldn't shake the feeling that the crippled Chun Ming was hiding in the shadows, watching him like prey. To be honest, his intuition was sharper than he realized. He declared that no one would steal what belonged to him in this dungeon. Drawing his heavy sword, Chun Yu unleashed a burst of golden magic power. He ordered a full-speed advance toward Wolf King Valley. However, he had no idea that every step he took was already part of Chun Ming's calculations. Standing atop the ancient altar, Chun Ming looked down at the approaching Qin family team. In his hand, a sphere of deep blue light began to coalesce. He whispered that gravity is the most fascinating force in the world. With a sudden movement, he pressed the glowing sphere into the very center of the altar. A massive boom echoed as the gravity across the entire plane instantly spiraled out of control. From the direction of Wolf King Valley, a thunderous sound erupted. It was the enraged roar of the level 15 boss, the Axetail Moon Shadow Wolf King, and it sounded very, very angry. The beast was charging directly toward Chun Yu's position. In the heart of the Moon Shadow Garden, the shifting gravitational field made the very air feel thick and heavy. Chun Yu panicked, wondering why his heavy armor suddenly felt so much heavier. Because he wore full adamantite plate armor, he was the most affected by the gravity. With every step, his feet sank 3 inches into the soil, and even his golden protective aura began to tremble. Beside him, Su Shweder's face turned pale with fear. The gem atop her staff flickered unsteadily. She told Chun Yu the environment was far too abnormal and suggested they should perhaps retreat for now. But before he could respond, an ear-piercing howl shattered the silence of the valley. We see a massive wolf, the size of an elephant, appearing in the distance. Its fur was silver-white, but its eyes glowed a blood red as it charged through the moonlight. Each of its massive leaps caused the ground beneath it to shatter. It moved so fast it left a trail of silver afterimages. This was the level 15 Wolf King, and the guards were terrified to see it leaving its valley so suddenly. The Su family guards turned pale, frantically raising their shields to form a wall in front of Chun Yu. He snapped at them, asking why they were panicking. Suppressing his own inner terror, Chun Yu raised his heavy sword, intending to use the beast to test his Mount Tai heavy strike as golden light exploded outward. He was desperate to show off in front of Su Shweder. Little did he know, this Wolf King wasn't wandering randomly. It was being lured directly to him. We see that this wasn't a random encounter. Chun Ming was using the Moon Demon's gravitational control to guide the beast's every move. He had calculated the trajectory with lethal precision, but the real trap lay in the residual fire energy he had left on those charred wolf carcasses earlier. The scent of that lingering flame had already permeated the entire area, acting as a beacon for the predator's rage. A small, red spark of fire dropped silently into the tall grass below, and then, boom, explosions erupted behind the Sioux family team. The blast instantly cut off their retreat and snapped the Wolf King's final thread of sanity, turning its massive body into a silver comet. The beast slammed into Chun Yu's heavy sword with a deafening crash. Chun Yu felt a mountain of overwhelming force crashing down upon him. His proud S-rank defensive skills seemed utterly pathetic in the face of such absolute level suppression and primal fury. He let out a pathetic scream. He was sent flying like a broken kite, his adamantite helmet splitting in half mid-air. Su Schwetter screamed his name in pure terror. The guards scrambled in total chaos as firelight, sword energy, and the sound of claws tearing through flesh filled the air. In the midst of this carnage, Chun Ming finally moved. Using his ghostly wind walk, he drifted like a faint breeze along the edge of the battlefield. Not a single guard noticed him, and even the Berserk Wolf King ignored the youth whose presence seemed to blend perfectly with nature itself. He had only one target, Chun Yu, who was currently lying in a crater coughing up mouthfuls of blood. The fallen genius looked up weakly, his face twisted with horror as he saw the figure descending like a god of death. He stammered, asking what his brother was doing and invoking their parents. Chun Ming knelt down and clamped his left hand firmly around Chun Yu's throat as dark red, soul-devouring flames flickered between his fingers. He asked if Chun Yu remembered they were brothers when he was busy stripping his rank and breaking his arms. Chun Yu could only beg for mercy. Deep down, Chun Yu felt the S-rank source power within his body trembling, as if it had finally encountered its natural predator. The power was being forcibly stripped away. The Holy Lord class's Devour skill triggered, granting 500 demon points and advancing his elemental masteries. Chun Yu's eyes nearly bulged out of his head as his metallic magic power was violently extracted from his core. It was a brutal process, to say the least. The despair of falling from the clouds into the abyss made him howl like a slaughtered pig. Finally, Su Schwer and the Su family experts noticed the anomaly. They began charging desperately toward them, but Chun Ming simply stood up, casually tossing the now broken Chun Yu aside like a pile of mud. He tossed the broken body onto the ground and turned his gaze toward the others. A massive, dark red fireball began to take shape above him, not a common spell, but a great flame sword infused with demonic power. Since they loved Chun Yu so much, he decided they could all go to hell together. The light of the flames instantly began to swallow everything. With a deafening roar, the dark red fireball descended like a falling meteor right into the center of the Su family team. The explosion erupted, and a terrifying heat wave instantly turned the surrounding vegetation into charred cinders. The charging Su family guards were caught, completely off guard. They stammered that this was impossible. A mere Earth-rank warlock shouldn't possess a skill that only a level 30 Grand Magus could cast. Chun Ming stood amidst the fire and smoke, his left hand clenched as dark red sparks still danced upon his fingertips. He walked toward the heap of mud that was Chun Yu, his boots making a sickening crunch against the scorched earth. Chun Yu begged for help. The fallen genius reached out weakly towards Su Schwer. His S-rank source power had been forcibly stripped away by Chun Ming, leaving him hollow. His golden magic had faded into nothingness, and he seemed to age years in a single moment. Chun Ming merely let out a cold laugh. He slammed his foot down on Chun Yu's one remaining good arm and ground it into the dirt, a shrill scream echoing across the plains. He reminded his brother that when his rank was stolen, their parents called it a brother's duty. Chun Ming leaned in, his dark eyes fixed on his prey. Now, he was simply taking back what belonged to him, a simple matter of returning property to its rightful owner. To be honest, a Sioux family captain, a level 20 warrior, charged forward with a heavy shield, roaring for Chun Ming to stop this madness. He shouted that this was an open provocation against both families, and if Chun Yu died, there would be no place left for Chun Ming to hide. Chun Ming turned his head slowly, the faint, terrifying image of a demon flickering within his left pupil. He had a different plan in mind. If he killed everyone here, after all, who would ever know it was him? Suddenly, his killing intent triggered a hidden passive, demonic pressure. The aura flared, reducing the attributes of everyone weaker than him by 20%. In that instant, every person on the battlefield felt it. The Sioux family guards felt as if an invisible hand had gripped their hearts, making every breath an agonizing struggle under the demon's gaze. With a sharp downward motion of his left hand, Chun Ming triggered a gravitational collapse, sending a hum through the air that shook the earth. The Sioux family captain felt as though 10,000 tons of lightning had crashed onto his shoulders, forcing him to his knees as his shield buckled. And then, we see the Wolf King emerge, its eyes locked on its next target. It was time for the beast to feast, and the battlefield was its banquet hall. A level 20 warrior stood no chance against a frenzied level 15 boss, especially with his attributes forcibly suppressed by Chun Ming. In an instant, the wolf's claws tore through his throat, and Chun Ming turned his cold gaze back toward his brother, Chun Yu. Chun Yu was utterly broken, sobbing that he was wrong and begging to return the profession if only his life could be spared. The stench of fear filled the air as Chun Yu collapsed in a pathetic display, making Chun Ming wonder how such a coward ever held an S rank. With a look of pure disgust, Chun Ming extended his left hand toward Chun Yu's chest, calling upon the power of the fire demon. As he exerted his will, a brilliant golden light was forcibly dragged from Chun Yu's heart, the core of the Taishan Heavy Knight. This was the very hope of the Chen family, stolen at a great cost, and now it left Chun Yu's body twitching in violent spasms. His eyes rolled back as his life force withered away, leaving him like a piece of dried wood rotting on the scorched ground. The system chimed with a cold congratulations. The power had been reclaimed, and the demon system began its next evolution. He had obtained the gold of Taishan, which could either strengthen his defense or be converted into 5,000 demon points as he reached level 10. Feeling the surge of power within him, Chun Ming looked up at the trembling Su Shuer, who could barely believe he had actually killed his brother. She shook with terror, unable to reconcile this ruthless executioner with the silent, discarded youth she once knew at school. Chun Ming told her to go back and tell Chun Yong and Zhang Yi that this was merely the first payment on a very long debt. He vowed to take back everything the Chun family owed him, inch by inch, until the family name was completely erased from Jiangnan City. He commanded her to get out, his voice carrying such demonic majesty that the highborn lady fled without a single thought of dignity. As the remaining guards scrambled and crawled toward the exit, Chun Ming chose not to pursue Su Shuer, knowing she needed a message to deliver. We see him turn his attention toward the Moon Shadow Wolf King, which was currently growling and preparing to pounce on its next victim. He looked at the beast and noted that since it had helped him kill his enemies, it was finally time to send the creature on its way. With a light tap of his toes, Chun Ming activated Ghost Walk and Gravity Control simultaneously, transforming into an uncatchable dark blur. He charged straight for the Wolf King, and that night, a golden announcement suddenly flashed across the Moon Shadow Plains dungeon. It congratulated an anonymous player for successfully slaying the level 15 boss and shattering the record for the fastest dungeon clearance. Outside, the support teams for the Su and Chen families watched Su Shuer emerge in a panic, bringing news that would shake Jiangnan City to its core. The air at the exit seemed to freeze as Su Shuer and her few remaining guards stumbled out of the portal, looking utterly dazed. Covered in soot and trembling, they were immediately met by Chun Yong and Zhang Yi, who rushed forward to greet them with expectant smiles. Zhang Yi asked why they were out so early and where Chun Yu was, even holding a bottle of champagne ready for a celebration. He jokingly wondered if Chun Yu had leveled up so fast that he simply one-shot the Wolf King, but Su Shuer collapsed onto the red carpet in tears. Her voice shook uncontrollably as she managed to choke out the words, "Uncle Chun Yu, he's dead." The cigar fell from Chun Yong's hand. Sparks flew as it hit the ground, and Zhang Yi's smile froze on his face like a mask, his mind reeling as if struck by lightning. Chun Yong roared in denial, grabbing a guard by the collar as his level 40 pressure exploded outward like a tidal wave. He demanded to know how Chun Yu could be dead with so many guards and Su family elites protecting him, assuming the Wolf King had gone berserk. But the guard swallowed hard, his eyes filled with a primal terror that had nothing to do with a monster. It wasn't the Wolf King. It was Chun Ming, the same Chun Ming they had cast out, who had slaughtered everyone and forcibly ripped the S-rank core from Chun Yu's body. Zhang Yi let out a piercing scream, her vision going dark as she nearly fainted at the thought of such a lethal, agonizing procedure. To be honest, they couldn't fathom how a supposedly useless Earth-grade caster could kill someone as well-equipped as Chun Yu. Chun Yong let out a maddened howl, demanding to know where the boy was as his earth element magic began to violently churn the ground beneath him. The floor tiles shattered as Chun Yong roared that he would kill the boy and burn him alive, while Su Shuer pointed toward the dungeon entrance with a sob. She cried out that he was still inside hunting the Wolf King, but as Chun Yong tried to charge in, the Su family's lead elder held him back firmly. The elder urged the family head to stay calm, noting that the announcement had already played. Chun Ming had killed the boss and likely escaped through another exit. Furthermore, he reminded him that the boy held the Song family's purple gold token, and a reckless attack would force a confrontation with Song Qingqing herself. Chun Yong ground his teeth so hard they cracked, blood seeping from his lips as he finally understood why that rebellious brat had been so arrogant. He realized the boy had found a backer in the Song family, and immediately ordered all of the Chun family shadow assets to place a $50 million bounty on his head. His voice was as cold as a venomous snake as he promised a massive reward to anyone who brought him Chun Ming's head. Meanwhile, across the city, we find Chun Ming sitting cross-legged in a secluded apartment, surrounded by swirling currents of pale green and dark red light. In his palm sat the core of the Mount Tai heavy weapon Origin, which he had forcibly stripped from Chun Yu's body earlier that night. The core emitted a final, dying glow as the system detected the high-grade metal element origin and began the process of conversion. The conversion was a success, granting him 8,000 demon points and pushing his fire demon progress to level 15. This unlocked a new skill called Hell Breath, while his wind demon progress reached level 12, granting him the passive ability Wind Spirit Movement. This passive would boost his speed by 30% during combat, and as the energy surged through him, his broken right arm began to crackle and pop. The bones were restructuring themselves, and a moment later, he tore off the bandages to find his twisted arm completely healed and whole. His skin now possessed a faint, jade-like luster, the result of the Holy Lord Profession's ultimate physical reconstruction. Chunming stood up slowly, testing his right fist with a light swing that caused a low, heavy sonic boom to echo through the small room. He had finally reached level 15. He could feel his magic power surging like a vast river, knowing that in this world, level 15 is the great watershed for all professionals. It is the moment one can undergo their first job advancement and gain entry to the Tower of Heaven, the gateway to the Myriad Realms battlefield. He pushed open the window and looked toward the distant, glowing Chun family mansion, which was currently descending into chaos over the fall of its prodigy. But for Chunming, this was merely the opening chapter of his revenge as a new main quest triggered. Enter the Jiangnan City Tower of Heaven and take the top spot. The quest required him to reach the top of the 4th floor within days to seize the Seed of Guarding, an item that would unlock his third demon, Dikuei, the Earth Demon. This entity commanded the ultimate defense of the Earth itself. Chunming's eyes narrowed slightly as he considered the power of this new Earth Demon. He thought of the Chun family's pride, the so-called Mount Tai heavy weapon. In the presence of the Earth Demon, Dikuei, such power was nothing more than a child playing with dirt. Chun Yong believed that Earth element defense was invincible in this world. Fine then, Chunming thought, I will utterly crush your pride in that very same domain. He pulled on a black winter hat and, with a sudden flicker of movement, vanished into the thick night. His destination was the Jiangnan City Professional Holy Land, the Tower of Heaven. We see the Jiangnan Tower of Heaven before us, a 100-story monolith built entirely of obsidian, its peak piercing the very clouds. A heavy mist of ancient laws swirled around its base. This was the sacred ground for all professionals in the city, and the only path leading to the higher realms. Inside, every floor functioned as an independent dimension, teeming with monsters and rich spiritual energy that the outside world simply couldn't match. Chunming stood at the foot of the tower, his face mostly hidden by his hat. A crowd of top students from the city's elite high schools had already gathered there. Someone pointed out Zhao Qian from high school number 2, who had reportedly cleared the 4th floor and reached level 12. To be honest, that was quite an achievement for a student. Others whispered that Su Shuer and the newly awakened Chun Yu were supposed to come, but something terrible had apparently happened to the Qin family. Chunming listened, expressionless. He walked toward the registration desk. Without looking up, the clerk asked for his name, level, and profession. He answered simply, Chunming, level 10, Warlock. The surrounding area fell into a sudden, stunned silence. Chunming, the discarded son of the Qin family, a level 10 Warlock? They couldn't believe their ears. He had only awakened a few days ago. Many assumed he must have hidden behind some powerful master to leech experience points, though that theory had its flaws. You see, the Tower of Heaven restricts entry to solo players or teams of the same rank. A mere warlock attempting the tower would likely be crushed by a slime on the 1st floor. Chunming ignored the mockery entirely. He took his entry permit and, under the disdainful gazes of the crowd, stepped into the pitch-black teleportation portal. We find him now on the 1st floor, the Wasteland Realm. It was a vast, boundless expanse of crimson wilderness where violent elemental energy drifted through the air. The moment Chunming landed, the soil beneath his feet churned violently. With a deafening roar, a creature lunged from the earth. It was an armored beast, the size of a bull and covered in thick, yellowish stone plating. This was a level 11 elite monster, a true nightmare for any ordinary warlock. Its defensive power was immense, yet a hint of hunger flashed in Chunming's eyes. To the Holy Lord, an earth element monster was exactly what he needed. In the face of true majesty, resistance is futile, like a child trying to challenge a god. The power of the earth demon, Dikuei, began to resonate within him. Although Dikuei wasn't fully unlocked yet, Chunming's perception of the earth had already undergone a qualitative change. He didn't even bother chanting a spell, he simply tapped his left foot. With a heavy thud, the solid ground beneath the charging armored beast instantly liquefied into a pool of treacherous quicksand. It was a sudden, rather unpleasant surprise for the creature. The sand then snapped shut like a massive stone hand, pinning the beast's limbs with an iron grip. At that moment, Chunming raised his hand and unleashed a hellfire breath. Dark red flames mixed with eerie green toxic smoke, swirling around the armored beast in a frantic, searing embrace. To be honest, the monster never stood a chance. In less than 3 seconds, that proud stone armor melted into glowing slag. The armored beast couldn't even manage a whimper before it was reduced to a pile of charred remains. He had slain a level 11 elite, earning 500 experience points and a set of shattered bone materials. It was a clean kill, but for Chun Ming, it wasn't enough. He glanced at his experience bar, his eyes turning cold. Too slow, he thought. He wasn't interested in a cautious, step-by-step climb up the tower. What he wanted was a total, crushing conquest from the very bottom. He stopped holding back his aura, letting his true power bleed into the air. The fury of the fire demon and the swiftness of the sky demon were fully unleashed. Over the next hour, the first 3 floors of the Tower of Heaven witnessed a nightmare. While ordinary professionals would carefully lure monsters one by one, the challenges before Chun Ming were as flimsy as wet paper. He simply didn't have the patience for caution. He became a streak of crimson light, leaving behind a sea of fire and razor-sharp wind wherever he passed. The first floor of the tower was cleared in a mere minute and 42 seconds. The second floor fell in 2 minutes and 15 seconds. By the time he reached the third floor, he had refined his path to a mere 3 minutes and 1 second. Outside the tower, the massive golden ranking screen, which usually remained static for hours, suddenly began to flicker and jump with frantic energy. People began to shout, pointing at an anonymous professional whose rank was skyrocketing, surging from the bottom 100 straight into the top 10. It was an absurd sight, really. He had cleared the first 3 floors in less than 10 minutes. The crowd wondered if some high-level master had started a new account just to bully the local monsters. We move now to the 5th floor, where the monsters are level 15 flame hounds, creatures known for their pack-based berserk traits. As Chun Ming stepped inside, the air grew heavy. Hundreds of blood-red eyes ignited in the darkness. "Perfect," Chun Ming whispered, a thin smile playing on his lips as he pressed his right hand firmly against the ground. His restored right hand began to glow with a faint, golden light, a mutated power born from devouring the essence of the Mount Tai heavy weapon. It was time for something special. Using the Holy Lord's secret technique, the Ring of 10,000 Fires, he let out a roar. Within a 100-meter radius, the very ground beneath him began to shatter and explode. Dark red magma erupted from the cracks like a fountain, weaving together into an airtight web of lethal firepower that tore through the flame hounds. As the fire consumed them, the experience points began to flood in, each kill against the flame hounds granting him another 300 points. The system notifications began to chime incessantly, a frantic and rhythmic ringing that echoed inside Chun Ming's mind as the kills piled up. His level surged upward to level 12, and he gained 2,000 demon points. But just as Chun Ming prepared to ascend to the 6th floor, a soft whisper drifted through the void, praising his overbearing firepower and wondering when Jiangnan had produced such a formidable figure. A figure slowly emerged from the mist, a young Taoist priest, perhaps only 16 or 17, carrying a wooden sword and wearing traditional robes. His eyes were remarkably clear, possessing a brightness that seemed out of place in such a dark and desolate tower. Chun Ming narrowed his eyes, a faint glow of fire appearing in his left hand as he warned the stranger that anyone blocking his path would die. The young man, whose name was Xiaoluo, gave a dark chuckle and pointed upward, noting that the 6th floor was the Phantom Forest. He claimed that without his Taoist arts to break the illusions, no amount of fire would get Chun Ming through, and he proposed a partnership. Chun Ming looked at him coldly, stating that he intended to take the ring of the Guardian Lord for himself, leaving only the scraps behind. Xiaoluo froze for a moment before laughing at the sheer arrogance, challenging Chun Ming to see if his fire was faster than a Taoist sword. Suddenly, a system prompt detected a high-quality ally candidate, triggering a demon bond mission to recruit Xiaoluo as a follower. A smirk played on Chun Ming's lips. The idea of taking a chosen Taoist as a servant seemed like a rather interesting beginning to their journey. They stepped through the portal to the 6th floor, and the violent heat of the lava vanished, replaced by a bone-chilling cold and thick purple mist. Ancient trees towered around them with branches twisted like ghostly hands, while a faint, hellish echoing in the air began to fray the nerves. Xiaoluo dropped his playful demeanor and warned that the mist could manifest a person's deepest fears, his expression turning uncharacteristically serious. He pulled a yellow talisman from his robe and flicked it, letting it burn into a circle of faint golden light that enveloped the two of them. He explained it was a heart-clearing incantation to ward off hallucinations, but Chun Ming simply walked ahead, his expression entirely blank. The power of the sky demon swirled around Chun Ming, forcibly blowing the mist away as he scoffed at the very idea of fear. He believed that if fear could kill, he would have died long ago. Suddenly, the purple mist ahead churned violently as 2 familiar figures slowly emerged before Chun Ming. "How could you kill Xiaoyu? She was your own sister," Zhang Yi cried out, her face stained with tears and her eyes filled with pure loathing and hatred. "You were born a demon lord. I should have strangled you at birth. Kneel and accept your death, you traitorous son." Chun Yong roared, bathed in golden earth elemental light as he raised a heavy sword. As the blade swung down, Xiaoluo's expression shifted drastically. He realized these were heart demon illusions, yet they felt disturbingly real. He shouted a warning, desperate to remind his companion that none of this was real. Chun Ming didn't even bother to test the waters, immediately unleashing a high-powered demonic skill that surged with dark red energy. A pillar of fire, woven from malice and crimson heat, swept outward instantly. Everything it touched, including the seemingly real versions of Chun Yong and his wife, began to wither. Like blood under a scorching sun, the illusions let out a piercing scream before rapidly disintegrating into nothingness. Then, we hear a sharp crack. The surrounding space shattered like glass as the illusions were violently torn apart, revealing the true culprits hiding behind the trees, a pack of three-eyed, pitch-black phantom succubi. These were level 15 elites, yet they were incinerated in an instant. Shalwa looked at the charred remains of the succubi, his eye twitching slightly at the sight. He had expected a bitter struggle of the mind and spirit, but Chun Ming simply refused to play by the rules, choosing instead to burn the entire stage to the ground. Notifications flashed as he killed the phantom succubi, gaining 450 experience points and triggering another level up. His current level reached 13. Your fire is certainly not ordinary, Xiao remarked, watching Chun Ming's back with a newfound sense of caution. The young Taoist's gaze turned heavy, realizing the sheer scale of the power he was walking alongside. Since you're being so straightforward, Brother Chun, I can't hold back either. The ancient spirit generals on the 7th floor are immune to most fire damage. Watch me. The two of them pushed forward at an incredible speed. Xiaolua's Taoist arts were ever-changing, utilizing golden light incantations for protection. He cleared the path with the Five Thunders technique, surprisingly managing to keep pace with Chun Ming. Meanwhile, outside the Babel Tower, the massive stone screen was buzzing. The crowd had erupted into a frenzy. 10th place. That anonymous challenger actually broke into the top 10. Wait, look at the light next to him. That's the special recruit from Longhu Mountain. Yes, he had reached the 10th rank. We moved to the 9th floor of the Babel Tower, the final hurdle before reaching the very top. What appeared before the two men now was no longer a common enemy, but something far more imposing. This was no mere monster, but a massive ancient giant radiating a chilling aura of death. It was a level 18 boss, and in its hand, it gripped a massive axe, crafted from countless polished spinal columns. With every step it took, the ground trembled. Brother Chun, this big guy has incredibly high physical defense and fire resistance, Xiaolong noted. He suggested that a direct confrontation wouldn't be wise. I'll use the immortal trapping array to lock him down, and you find an opening to blow out his soul fire. As Xiaolong began reaching for his talismans, Chun Ming simply stepped forward. No need, he said, pressing his left hand firmly against his chest, where his Holy Lord core was pulsing wildly. Using the scripture of Mount Tai, he unleashed a gravity collapse, the mutated power he had reclaimed and converted from Qinyu. To be honest, the results were immediate and devastating. Within a 100-meter radius, the gravity intensified more than tenfold. The ancient giant, which had been about to swing its axe, let out a piercing screech from its straining knee joints. Its massive body was forced to kneel directly in front of Chun Ming. "Lend me a sword," Chun Ming said, turning his gaze toward Xiaolong. Xiaolong understood instantly. Pointing his fingers toward the sky, he summoned the thunder. A bolt of golden lightning, as thick as a barrel, followed the gravity's pull with perfect precision. The strike slammed directly into the giant's skull. The level 18 ancient giant was slain, granting 5,000 experience points. And then, we hear the chime of a notification. The promotion conditions were met. The Fire Demon unlock progress reached 20%, granting the Demon Domain skill. Within this domain, all of the host's attributes are boosted by 50%. Furthermore, any enemies within the domain fall into a state of pure terror. Chun Ming felt the demonic power within him undergo another qualitative transformation. He looked up at the stairs leading to the 10th floor. The Realm Lord title, I will have it, he declared, stepping upward. Behind him, Xiaolong watched his back in silence. The young Taoist put away his wooden sword and whispered to himself. This wasn't a warlock at all. This was a walking demon in the human world, which, naturally, raised a terrifying question. What kind of monster had the Chun family actually unleashed? We moved to the 10th floor of the Babel Tower. Here, there are no monsters, only a void of starlight. In the center of that starry sky sat a sphere of soft white light, pulsing like a beating heart. This was the Realm Lord core, but Chun Ming wasn't alone. The moment he stepped onto the final stair, he saw a figure already waiting. The man wore a luxurious, deep purple combat suit, his long hair draped over his shoulders. He was casually fiddling with a translucent gemstone. His aura was extremely restrained, yet it gave Chun Ming a crushing sense of pressure, as if he were standing before a great abyss. That's Meng Qingyun, from the Meng family of Jiangnan High School, Xiaolong whispered into Chun Ming's ear. His tone had become unprecedentedly serious. Meng Qingyun was a level 20 Thunder Lord, a top-tier class. He was the previous year's champion, and he had waited an entire year specifically for this Realm Lord core. His strength was said to be enough to sweep the entire space. Meng Qingyun slowly lifted his head, his eyes flickering with faint, dangerous traces of lightning. His cold gaze swept over the two of them, finally settling on Chun Ming. This anonymous player had some skill to make it this far, but the Realm Seed, a divine artifact capable of opening private territories, was not something an unknown little character could hope to touch. On this stage, it belongs to whoever is fastest, Chun Ming replied coldly. His right hand slowly opened, and ghostly green hellfire began to dance at his fingertips. You're seeking death, Meng Qingyun snorted. In an instant, the lightning surrounding his body erupted with terrifying intensity. With a single cold huff, the lightning exploded into the thousand-bird thunder prison. The entire starry sky was suddenly filled with blinding bolts of electricity. Countless bolts of lightning condensed into the shapes of birds, emitting sharp, shrieking cries as they rained down on Chun Ming. Activate Golden Light Curse. Shalloa let out a low shout, his entire body glowing with a brilliant golden light as he blocked the first wave of the assault. But the lightning was exceptionally dominant. In an instant, dense cracks appeared all over Shalloa's Golden Light Curse. Brother Chun, his level suppression is too strong. I can't hold out for long. That's enough, Chun Ming replied. Using a ghostly wind walk, he accelerated to his limit, his figure turning into a string of afterimages amidst the thunderstorm. Gravity, reversal. Chun Ming swung his left hand violently. The lightning that had been striking downward was suddenly pulled by gravity, carving a strange arc in the air. The bolts reflected directly back toward Meng Qingyun. What? Meng Qingyun's pupils shrank. Though he was a thunder lord who controlled electricity, this kind of reflection on the level of physical laws caught him completely off guard. Activate Holy Lord Domain, Chun Ming murmured softly. And then, the real power began to stir. Unleashing the demonic flame sea, Chun Ming held nothing back. He forcibly merged the golden, demonic power of Mount Tai from his right arm with the demonic fire of his left. Get down. He soared into the sky, his right hand forming a claw. His fingertips seemed to swallow the surrounding light as he lunged forward. With a force capable of crushing anything in its path, he struck at Meng Qingyun. Armor of the Thunder God. Meng Qingyun roared in desperation. Lightning condensed into heavy armor over his body. Then, a sharp crack echoed. To Shalloa's absolute horror, Chun Ming's hand actually tore through the armor of the Thunder God, slamming heavily into Meng Qingyun's chest. A massive explosion followed, and Meng Qingyun was sent flying like a broken kite. He was blasted directly off the edge of the Babel Tower's 10th floor, falling into the bottomless mist below, which, to be honest, was a long way down. A notification chimed. You have defeated a level 20 elite. 8,000 experience points gained. Level up. Current level, 14. The entire area fell into a deathly silence as Shalloa's jaw dropped, his wooden sword clattering to the ground unnoticed. A level 6 player had just torn through the defenses of a Thunderlord. Brother Chun, be honest, are you actually some ancient evil god reincarnated? Chun Ming ignored him, walking calmly toward the pedestal. His left hand firmly grasped the Realm Seed. A notification chimed. You have obtained a mythic grade item, the Realm Seed Seedling. Detecting that the host possesses a demonic space. Merging now. Demon Palace combat mode is unlocked. The host may now recruit followers to build his own supreme power. As the Realm Seed entered his body, Chun Ming felt a vast expanse of dark soil manifest deep within his soul. At the edge of that land, 8 magnificent demon statues were faintly emerging. Meanwhile, outside the Babel Tower, the rankings on the massive screen froze instantly. First place, Anonymous. Chun Ming had cleared 10 floors, reaching the summit perfectly. Outside the tower, the entire city was in an uproar. Someone actually reached the top. Meng Qingyun has fallen. Heavens, the Meng families. Prodigy was utterly crushed by that anonymous player. While the entire city scrambled to find this mysterious figure, Chun Ming had already slipped away under Shalloa's cover. He left the Babel Tower silently and appeared in a remote forest on the outskirts of the city. Brother Chin, what do you plan to do next? Shalloa asked seriously. The Meng family isn't like the Qin family. They are the true titans of Jiangnan City. Meng Qingyun is ruined, and they will surely go mad. Chun Ming watched the demonic aura swirling in his palm, his eyes boiling with killing intent. Let them go mad then. It just so happens my Demon Palace is missing a few gatekeepers. A new mission triggered. Form the Demon Palace. Objective: subdue 1 or more class holders as the first divine general. Chun Ming looked at Shalloa, a playful, cryptic smile curling at his lips. Shalloa, do you want to see a true miracle? In the forest, the moonlight was like silver. Shalloa looked at Chun Ming's serious expression and felt a sudden chill run down his spine. He was a descendant of Mount Longhu, trained since childhood in the Taoist arts of exorcism. Yet here was Chun Ming, inviting him to witness a miracle while radiating a demonic aura so thick it was practically overflowing. Brother Chun, this miracle of yours, you aren't planning to sacrifice me, are you? Shalloa gave a dry laugh, though his hand gripped his sword tightly. Chun Ming didn't speak. Instead, he slowly raised his left hand. From the void, the realm seed that had merged into his body suddenly emitted a dark purple glow. Realm expansion, Demon Palace. The ground beneath them didn't crack, but Shalloa felt the world shift. Instead, he felt a terrifying spatial fluctuation wrap around them both instantly. The dense forest vanished, replaced by a vast expanse of desolate, silent black earth. As we look toward the horizon, the familiar world is gone, leaving only this barren and quiet dark land. In the distance, the faint silhouette of a mountain-sized palace stands firm, radiating an ancient, desolate, and chilling aura. Above the pitch-black palace, 8 massive stone statues bow their heads. Even as mere statues, the pressure they emit makes Xiaoluo, a level 15 Taoist, feel his legs go weak. This isn't independent. No, it is a growth-type realm. Xiaoluo screamed in disbelief. As a genius, he knew the value of such a thing all too well. Ordinary players at level 50 might not ever open their own domain. Yet Chun Ming, at only level 14, already possessed a complete and divine relic. Xiaoluo, Chun Ming turned around, his black cloak snapping in the wind. Against the backdrop of the demon palace, he looked like the only reality in this world. There are countless paths in this world, but all are bound by the laws of heaven and earth. Join my demon palace, and I shall grant you power beyond those laws. Chun Ming pointed, and a cluster of pure fire essence floated toward Xiaoluo. This was a spark of the Holy Lord's origin, capable of doubling the power of his lightning arts. The price? From now on, he must guard the demon palace against millions of alien races. Xiaoluo watched the flickering spark of destruction and swallowed hard. He knew this was a chance to change his fate forever. The Meng family, the Qin family, and even his own Mount Longhu seemed small before that black palace. To hell with it, I'm in. After all, at Mount Longhu, he was already considered a talentless misfit. Xiaoluo gritted his teeth and reached for the flame. Brother Qin, no? Palace Master. Xiaoluo's level increased by 1, and he gained the passive skill, Demonic Thunderfire, adding 50 points of true damage to his attacks. A red light enveloped Xiaoluo, and his level 15 aura instantly surged to level 16. The wooden sword in his hand was now wrapped in a layer of dark red demonic flames. To be honest, he didn't expect to grow this strong so quickly. Xiaoluo swung the sword experimentally, and a bolt of thunderfire blasted a deep crater into the black soil. Chun Ming looked away, his gaze turning increasingly cold. Now, we return to Jiangnan City to collect a debt. Qin Yong thought killing him would end everything, and the Mings think they can just hunt him down. Since they want to play, he will burn Jiangnan City to the ground. Meanwhile, the city was already in chaos because Meng Qingyun had failed. News that an anonymous player had blasted through the Heaven Tower with a single strike spread like wildfire. Inside the Meng family hall, Lord Meng Shanha's face was dark with rage. He looked down at his son, who lay on a medical bed with shattered ribs and a damaged consciousness. His furious roar was so powerful it actually shook the chandeliers overhead. He demanded a full investigation into this anonymous attacker. After all, in Jiangnan City, no one dares to lay a hand on the son of Meng Shanha without consequences. Nearby, Qin Yong, who had been waiting in fear, suddenly spoke up. He claimed to have a lead on a highly suspicious individual who entered the Heaven Tower that day. When asked who it was, Qin Yong's eyes turned venomous as he named his own runaway son, Chun Ming. To be honest, he seemed quite eager to shift the blame. He explained that Chun Ming had killed his other son, Chun Yu, and stripped away his S-rank class. He believed the boy possessed some sort of extremely wicked power. He was certain that if anyone had the capability to severely wound Meng Qingyun, it was that boy. It was a bold claim, but one born of pure desperation. He assured Meng Shanha that the boy was still in the city. He even offered to bankrupt the Qin family just to help the Mengs lock down every exit. Meng Shanha slammed his hand down, shattering a mahogany table. He declared that he would show this brat that the very sky over Jiangnan City belongs to the Meng family. However, neither of them realized that while they plotted their capture, mysterious figures were already appearing in the shadows of every corner of the city. These figures wore black robes with ferocious dragon heads embroidered on their sleeves. We see that Chun Ming's revenge was no longer a solitary journey. This was the first sign of the Demon Palace's warriors. Atop a dilapidated warehouse in the north, Qin Ming watched the Meng family patrol cars screaming past below. A cruel smile played on his lips. His first target was the Chun family's primary warehouse. He intended to rot the Chun family's foundation away, piece by piece. In the northern suburbs, we find a heavily guarded modern cold chain warehouse. This facility served as the lifeblood of the Chun family's medicinal herb trade. It was precisely because of this logistics hub that the Chun family was able to rise to power and secure their status among the elite. The entire operation was the core of their influence. Naturally, they weren't about to leave such a valuable asset unprotected against potential threats. The guards were told to stay sharp, as that rebel son might be planning something reckless. The leader, a level 20 iron guard, kept his men on high alert. The burly man cursed under his breath, repeating Qin Yong's warnings about the boy's madness. He was just about to light a cigarette when something changed. A faint, delicate sound of a bell echoed from the darkness. It was a crisp, clear sound, yet it carried an eerie tone that made the guard's skin crawl. As the leader demanded to know who was there, a figure in deep green Taoist robes slowly emerged. It was Xiaoluo, looking far more formidable than before. In his hand, a wooden sword was wrapped in dark red lightning patterns, and his face wore that signature playful smirk as he asked if anyone had a light. The guards, convinced he was seeking death, drew their weapons instantly. Yet before they could take a single step, the air around them collapsed without warning. Through a gravitational collapse, an irresistible pressure descended from above, forcing all the guards, including their level 22 captain, to their knees. The hard concrete floor cracked under the sheer force of the weight. Then, we see Chun Ming walking calmly from behind Xiaoluo. His black trench coat remained perfectly dry despite the rain as he looked at the warehouse doors with eyes as cold as if he were staring at a tomb. The lead captain stared in terror, his voice hoarse as he gasped Chun Ming's name, asking if he had gone mad for attacking the Chun family's medicine stores. He warned that burning this place would cause medicine prices to skyrocket and make Chun Ming a wanted man, but the boy simply looked down at him, utterly indifferent. He asked if Chun Yong had remembered he was a son when he was breaking his arms. If his father wanted to be the medicine king, he would leave him with only dust. Chun Ming walked slowly to the front of the gates and raised his right hand, invoking the fire demon's hellish breath. To be honest, it wasn't a normal flame. Instead, it was a dark red demonic fire mixed with the aura of destruction, roaring like a fire dragon as it instantly pierced through the reinforced warehouse doors. The extreme heat vaporized the metal plates in a heartbeat, and then that dragon of flames surged deep into the interior of the facility. It greedily devoured the priceless herbs and medicines within. A notification chimed. Destroying a pillar of the Chen family earned him 3,000 demon points. His fire demon unlock progress rose to 25%. The lead captain watched the soaring flames, his heart bleeding for the lost cargo. He knew that what was burning wasn't just medicine, but the very foundation of the Chen family. But Qin Ming wasn't finished yet, and he turned to Xiaoluo. Xiaoluo gave a dark laugh, pointing his sword to the sky as he pronounced a judgment of lightning and fire upon those who lived without a path. Dark red thunder crashed down along the gravity field, turning the struggling guards into charred remains. Just then, Chun Ming sensed something approaching. He turned toward the distant darkness with a playful, knowing smile. It seemed the Ming family had arrived much faster than expected. 3 minutes later, several black SUVs bearing the Ming family crest screeched to a halt. Elder Ming Hai stepped out with a dozen elite professionals. As he looked at the warehouse, which had already turned into a sea of fire, his expression became terrifyingly dark. He couldn't believe Chun Ming's audacity. Ming Hai glared at the boy, releasing the unrestrained pressure of a level 28 expert for wounding young Master Qing Yun and burning an ally's warehouse. He asked if the boy truly believed no one in Jiangnan City could restrain him, but Chen Ming simply stretched his hand as sparks danced in his palm. Chen Ming noted that Meng Hai wasn't so imposing when Meng Qingyun's ribs were being shattered. In response, the elder ordered his men to form the thunder cable array. He demanded they take the boy alive, intending to extract his soul and forge it into a lightning crossbow. At Meng Hai's command, the elites fanned out. Their staves and long swords began to glow, connecting into a vast web of blue electricity as they moved with practiced, lethal precision. As the electric net closed in, Chun Ming watched with utter disdain before calmly uttering 2 words, domain expansion, which, naturally, changed everything. Xiaoluo let out a great shout, his footsteps echoing like wind chimes as he charged Meng Hai, while Chun Ming slowly spread his arms wide. Entering the fire demon's state of silent mind, he summoned the demonic fire meteors. Countless dark red spheres of flame materialized out of thin air. With deafening sonic booms, they rained down upon the Meng family elites. That night, the fires in the northern suburbs illuminated half of Jiangnan City. The spectacle effectively tore away the last shred of dignity between the Chun and Meng families. The warehouse had become a literal purgatory. The demonic flames were so intense, they vaporized the falling rain midair, creating a haunting mixture of white mist and thick black smoke. Meng Hai roared hysterically, desperate to maintain control. The 12 elites he brought were all level 20 or higher lightning mages and warriors. They formed a circle, their standard-issue lightning blades and staves resonating violently to create a unified field of high-voltage energy. Thick bolts of blue lightning interlaced in the sky, forming a massive thunder cage that attempted to forcibly lock Qin Ming in place. The current lashed against his sovereign domain with a piercing hiss, yet it failed to move him even a fraction of an inch. Chun Ming coldly told Xiaoluo that the old ghost was testing his limits and warned him not to embarrass the name of the demon lightning. Xiaoluo laughed, his body moving like a bolt of lightning. He was a chosen Taoist, and now, bolstered by the sovereign's power, he was unstoppable. His rapid footwork left behind a trail of afterimages as he prepared the Thunderfire Heartburst, thrusting his wooden sword toward the ground. A shockwave of demonic fire and Taoist thunder fanned out. To be honest, the supposedly indestructible array stood no chance against such power. Upon contact with this higher-dimensional energy, the thunder cable array was sliced open like a hot knife through butter, leaving a massive gap. 3 Ming family mages responsible for maintaining the formation's anchor coughed up blood simultaneously as they were sent flying backward. Meng Hai stared in disbelief, wondering what kind of bizarre energy this was and why Taoist arts would contain such demonic malice. He had never seen such an unorthodox technique, yet its power was undeniably terrifying. In a flash, shields crossed in front of Meng Hai as lightning flowed across them, transforming into a massive, shimmering thunder barrier. Suddenly, Chun Ming's figure appeared right before the shield, his left hand glowing with dark red demonic fire he'd been gathering. Instead of a broad flame, the energy condensed into a single, needle-thin line of fire that was nearly pitch black. With a sharp, piercing force, it struck the center of the thunder shield, a barrier that could normally withstand heavy artillery. The moment it touched the fire line, the shield's center simply melted away, leaving a gaping hole for the beam to pass through. The fire line tore through the chests of two warriors behind it before slamming violently into Meng Hai's own protective mana. A massive explosion rocked the night sky, incinerating half of Meng Hai's clothes and sending him flying a dozen meters into a wrecked SUV. His face was a mask of horror as he realized Chun Ming had reached such a level. Level 14? No, that was impossible. But as we know, impossible is a word used only by those who cannot see the truth. Using his demon wings for a brief burst of speed, Chun Ming walked to the edge of the ruins to look down at the fallen elder. There was no mercy in his eyes as he watched Meng Hai groveling in the dirt, desperate and broken. He told the old man to warn Meng Shanha and Chun Yu that he was waiting in Jiangnan City for whoever they dared to send. He promised that next time, he would personally visit the Meng estate to take their heads. Then, with a wave, he cast the man aside. Shala sheathed his wooden sword and asked why they were letting the old ghost live. To be honest, it was a fair question. Chun Ming looked toward the glowing skyscrapers, stating he wanted both families to live every remaining second in the shadow of their own ruin. Their next stop was the southern docks, where the Chun family's final shipment of supplies for the capital was being prepared. As Chun Ming vanished into the thick mist, Shalua followed with a dark chuckle. That night, the news Meng Hai carried back was a bombshell. It shattered the peace of Jiangnan's elite society, as everyone realized the boy they once discarded had returned as something far more dangerous. An unstoppable demon was emerging from the city's shadows, ready to swallow everything whole as midnight settled over the Jiangnan docks. The sea breeze carried the scent of the river toward the shore, where a dozen massive cargo ships were moored, including a titan known as the City Pilot. It belched black smoke, preparing to transport the Chun family's final core strategic materials, accumulated over many years, including large quantities of high-grade enhancement stones and crystals. This was the Chun family's final bargaining chip. If this shipment reached the capital, they could secure the protection of the great noble houses and escape the quagmire of Jiangnan forever. Everyone was ordered to check their gear. The head of the house had declared that tonight, not even a fly would be allowed to approach the docks. 200 professionals stood on high alert, a mix of Chun family private soldiers and elites sent by the Meng family. In the center, Chun Yu stood grimly, leaning on a heavy, earth-colored scepter. Beside him stood the Meng family's second-in-command, the man known as the Hand of Thunder, Meng Shanhu. Brother Chun, does that kid really dare to show up? Meng Shanhu asked, cracking his neck with a sound like firecrackers. He intended to turn these docks into a tomb. But just as the words left his mouth, a burst of dark red fire ignited on the calm water. Without any warning, a massive wave surged as a small boat, propelled by the explosion, shot forward like an arrow from a bow. It tore through the thick mist and slammed directly into the pier. He was here. Every professional drew their weapons as colorful skill lights illuminated the night sky. The small boat shattered, and Chun Ming's slender yet imposing figure soared into the air. Behind him, a pair of illusory wings woven from dark red flames and pale green cyclones unfurled, the true form of the demon wings. He was flying. Shen Yang's pupils contracted in pure shock, knowing that before level 30, such a feat was impossible without a specific flying class. Simply impossible. Shenyu, do you like this grand gift? Chun Ming asked, hovering high above and looking down at the dense crowd. He opened his left hand, and between his fingers, a gravity sphere as black as ink began to condense, the gravity black star. Chun Ming thrust the black sphere downward. Defend. Raise the shields. But the moment the sphere touched the ground, it didn't erupt in an explosion. Instead, it generated a terrifying suction force, pulling in shipping containers, rubble, and even the lower level professionals toward its center. Screams filled the air as dozens of Chun family guards were crushed in the relentless vortex. In an instant, the air was filled with the sickening sound of snapping bones as dozens of Chun guards were twisted into a bloody pulp. Die, you little beast, Meng Shanhu roared, leaping forward like a maddened lion while his massive axe began to crackle with destructive lightning, aiming a thunderous strike directly at Chun Ming's head. First Divine General, time to earn your keep, Chun Ming muttered. He shifted his body slightly, dodging the blade with effortless grace. As you wish, master, a voice replied as a shadow emerged from the darkness. Like a phantom, the figure lunged forward, his wooden sword now transformed into a terrifying crescent of dark red lightning and fire. It was the Thunderfire Sky Collapse, a strike that seemed to split the very heavens. A massive explosion followed, leaving Meng Shanhu reeling in shock and fury, while Chun Ming landed calmly on the deck of the City Pilot. Stop right there, Chin Yu screamed like a madman, waving his scepter as countless sharp stone pillars erupted from the deck to trap him. Chun Ming didn't even bother to look back. He simply stomped his foot, activating the echo of the earth demon. To be honest, it was overkill. The mutated earth elements instantly backfired, softening the stone pillars into ropes of molten lava that bound Chun Yu instead. Chun Yong was bound tightly to the spot, unable to move an inch. Chun Ming simply noted that the defense his opponent was so proud of was nothing more than a joke. He turned his head, and we see a cold determination reflected in his eyes. The entire ship was bathed in a crimson glow. The Chun family doesn't deserve this cargo. I'll be taking it. He pressed his hand to the deck. Demonic energy surged from his palm, flowing through the metal structure of the massive vessel like a dark, spreading infection. The energy covered the ship instantly. A notification chimed. Core materials plundered. 15,000 demon points gained. Containment function activated. The materials were moved to the warehouse. Then, with a world-shaking roar of tearing space, the entire 10,000-ton cargo ship vanished before everyone's eyes, swallowed whole by the pitch-black vortex swirling behind Chun Ming's back. Chun Yu stared at the empty, bubbling water, coughing up a mouthful of blood as his spirit finally broke. The Chun family was finished. Chun Ming stood in the rain, looking coldly at the ruined docks. Next, it would be time to visit the Ming family and collect the rest of their debt. The fires at the dock began to fade, but the storm Chun Ming had unleashed upon Jiangnan City was only just reaching its peak. With the disappearance of the city pilot, the Chun family's last shred of prestige collapsed. Meanwhile, in the heart of the city, in the most prestigious district, the Ming family's Thunder Manor, a fortress of white wood, was being smothered by an unprecedented, suffocating atmosphere. An entire cargo ship had vanished, and hundreds of professional warriors had simply disappeared along with it. Meng Shanha sat at the head of the table. His face, usually ruddy with health, was now as white as paper. He looked at Meng Shanhu, who had crawled back with a severed arm, his palm cracking the mahogany table. Brother, that kid isn't right. The Taoist by his side has bizarre energy, and Chun Ming. He didn't even have to lift a finger himself. He crippled our men using nothing but a gravity field. Meng Shanhu hissed through gritted teeth, his eyes still filled with the lingering terror of a survivor. Master, this is bad, a Ming disciple cried out, literally scrambling into the hall on all fours, his voice high-pitched and shrill with panic. At the gate, someone sent a bell. Meng Shanha stood up abruptly, his figure blurring as he reappeared instantly before the manor's grand entrance. The luxurious white jade pillars at the gate had been shattered. A massive bronze bell, 3 times the height of a man, sat inverted beneath the family plaque. Upon the bell's surface, 3 large characters had been carved with dark red demonic flames. Meng Shanha. To be honest, the craftsmanship was quite intimidating. As the echo of the bell lingered, a voice as cold as ice drifted from the surrounding mist, overlapping from all directions. Master Meng, Qin Yu is already gone. Do you like this funeral bell? You coward, hiding your face like a common beast. Meng Shanha roared, his voice trembling with fury. But the person he was looking for was already there. Carrying the dual-colored demonic intent, Chun Ming descended slowly from a vortex, his toes lightly touching the top of the bronze bell. His black trench coat fluttered wildly in the wind. After harvesting the experience at the docks, Chun Ming had already reached level 16. Behind him, the first divine general floated in midair with a wicked grin, clutching his wooden sword wrapped in lightning and fire. Old man Meng, your house has bad feng shui. It's far too gloomy, so our shopkeeper came personally to help you clear out the heat. A mere level 16 warlock dares to speak such nonsense. Meng Shanha laughed in a fit of rage. With a sharp wave of his right hand, he summoned the heavens to answer his call. Thunder carrying celestial majesty crashed down toward them. Chun Ming didn't even bother to dodge. He simply activated gravity reversal and universal integration. He held his left hand toward the sky, and a pitch-black gravitational singularity formed above his palm. We see the violent lightning begin to warp. As the bolts came within 10 meters, they were forcibly twisted and compressed, eventually being swallowed whole by the black hole until nothing remained. What kind of technique is this? Meng Shanha was utterly dumbfounded. As a Thunder Lord, his greatest strength was explosive power, but now it felt as though he were throwing a heavy punch into an endless abyss without causing a single ripple. My turn, Chun Ming said, his eyes turning cold as his wings snapped open and his entire body dived downward at a speed so intense it triggered a series of sonic booms. Using the demon fire stream palm, his right hand was no longer merely wreathed in flames. Instead, it fused the crushing weight of Mount Tai with gravitational force and demonic fury, forming a massive palm composed of molten magma. With a deafening boom, the lightning shield Meng Shanha raised disintegrated the moment it touched the demonic palm, and he was driven directly into the ground. The manor's exquisite flooring shattered in a radial pattern as dust filled the air. He had dealt a heavy blow to a level 32 lord, gaining 12,000 experience points. He also earned 5,000 demon points. Seeing this, Meng Shanhu let out a guttural roar and lunged toward Chun Ming with desperate ferocity. Your opponent is me, the first divine general, Xia Luo chuckled darkly. His wooden sword struck like a spirit snake, unleashing fierce lightning and fire in an 8-direction soul lock. Dark red chains instantly bound Meng Shanhu, and Xia Luo followed up with a strike of fire thunder that dealt true demonic damage. As the dust cleared, we see Meng Shanha lying miserably in the center of the crater. His chest bones had collapsed, and he stared at Chun Ming in complete disbelief. Just what class did you awaken? This is definitely not a warlock. Dead men don't need to know so much, Chun Ming replied, landing at the edge of the pit as his left hand began to condense. A line of hellfire capable of ending everything. However, just as he prepared to wipe the Meng family from existence, an incredibly faint, yet exceptionally ancient aura suddenly awakened from the forbidden grounds of the back mountain. Young man, when you can forgive, you should forgive. The Meng family is not a place where you can act so boldly. An aged voice echoed across the field, accompanied by a continuous, wave-like surge of water attribute magic. Chun Ming retracted the fire line and looked toward the mountain, a hint of excitement curling his lips. So the old monster finally decided to come out. Perfect. My demon hall is still missing a decent whetstone. A notification appeared. A powerhouse above level 35 had been detected. This triggered a demon challenge mission. Survive for 10 minutes against this expert or force them into a full retreat. To be honest, the stakes were quite high. The reward would unlock the fourth demon, Basha, the water demon who controls the source of all waters. As that ancient voice faded, the lake behind the manor began to churn despite the lack of wind. Massive waves condensed in the air, transforming into a 100-meter-long, transparent dragon. The dragon roared as it crashed toward Chun Ming. Facing this water attribute master, Chun Ming beat his wings and soared backward, his fire-red aura flaring behind him. His wings left a dark red trail in the air as the water dragon slammed into his bronze bell shield, which had previously seemed indestructible. The impact was immense, yet the shield held firm for the moment. From the mist emerged a figure with skin like wrinkled bark, yet radiating a relentless, surging power. The Meng family ancestor, Meng Chantian. He was a level 38 Great Ocean Sage. Ancestor, save me, Meng Shanha cried out, clinging to this arrival like a drowning man to a straw. Chantian ignored the pathetic wailing and fixed his cloudy, yet deep gaze on Chun Ming. To think someone so young could master 4 distinct elemental powers: fire, wind, gravity, and origin. Young man, the master behind you must have quite an appetite to treat Jiangnan City as a mere testing ground. Master, Chun Ming let out a cold, mocking laugh. As his holy sovereign domain expanded once more, he declared that in all the heavens, no one was worthy of being his teacher. Old man, if you think the Mengs can't be touched, then stay and die with them. He unleashed the fire demon's hellfire lotus. Chun Ming pressed his right hand toward the earth, and the entire manor grounds began to crack. Countless dark red lotuses bloomed from the fissures. These weren't simple fireballs. Each flower contained an extreme level of compressed explosive power. Arrogant, Changtian barked, tapping his blue-gold staff. He invoked his ocean domain, where all things fall silent, in a wave of intense and frigid water vapor instantly blanketed the field. The lotuses that were about to detonate suddenly flickered the moment they touched this mist. Their light dimmed rapidly until they were frozen solid within crystals of ice. It was the iron law of elemental advantage. Water conquers fire. Brother Chun, this old man's water is strange. It absorbs heat, Xia Luo shouted from a distance. Noticing his own lightning fire chains were shrinking. The water vapor was suppressing everything. Suddenly, a notification appeared. Extreme water suppression detected, triggering the Holy Sovereign's devouring instinct. This resonance was calling to Basha, the water demon. To be honest, the timing couldn't have been more perfect for a counterattack. The system asked if he would sacrifice 10,000 demon points to forcibly seize control of the opponent's water element. Sacrifice it, Chun Ming decided. A ruthless glint flashed in his eyes. His suppressed fire wings actually shattered on purpose, and his aura plummeted instantly to nothing. He looked like an ordinary person now. Have you given up? Changtian shook his head with a hint of pity. He thought the boy was simply too young. Then die. Ocean burial. Massive amounts of seawater surged from the void, completely enveloping Chun Ming in a watery tomb. A massive spherical water prison formed, with internal pressure surging high enough to crush solid steel into fragments. However, just as Meng Changtian prepared to turn and rescue Meng Shanha, a faint, mocking whistle drifted from the center of the sphere. Old man, thanks for the water. With a thunderous boom, the deep blue water prison transformed into an inky blackness in an instant. On the surface of Chun Ming's skin, brilliant blue demonic patterns began to surface. His eyes turned into a ghostly, deep-sea blue as the power of the water demon, Basha, was finally unlocked. A surge of water magic, older, purer, and far more overbearing than Changtian's, erupted from within Chun Ming. That original, lethal water prison now acted like an obedient slave, spinning wildly at his fingertips to form a black water spear that seemed to pierce the heavens. How is this possible? Aren't you a fire mage? Changtian's staff nearly slipped from his hand. To be honest, after studying water magic for 60 long years, he had never seen anything like this. The spear tore through the void. Changtian desperately cast defensive spells, stacking layer upon layer of water curtains, yet against that black spear They were as flimsy as paper. The spear pierced through Chang Tian's shoulder, pinning him ruthlessly to the stone cliffs of the manor's back mountain. The system chimed. Control of the water element had been seized. With the water demon Basha unlocked, the opponent's failed attack triggered a new passive. The skill All Rivers Reach the Sea was active. All water attacks were now ineffective and would instead restore his mana. The entire field fell silent. The level 38 ancestor, the pride of the family, had been utterly defeated in a single move. We see the young man standing there like a god or a demon. Nearby, Meng Shanhe lay trembling in a pool of blood, finally understanding his mistake.